Ohio.
Mr. President, I rise to join my colleague from the other side of the aisle, Senator Brown, who came to the floor earlier to congratulate Mayor Andy Ginther of Columbus, Ohio, and the people of Columbus, Ohio, and Central Ohio for a big victory this week. We won the Federal Department of Transportation Smart City Grant Competition. This is something we've been working on for months. It's a big deal to us in Central Ohio. It gives us the opportunity to get not only $40 million in terms of a grant from the Department of Transportation to be a model city, but also in combination with another grant from Vulcan Corporation of $10 million and $90 million that's been raised in the private sector to have a total of about $140 million to reshape transportation in Central Ohio, to create more economic growth for the citizens of Central Ohio, but also to be this model, not just for Ohio, but for the rest of the country, and how we can use smart transportation to help create economic growth and opportunity. I want to thank U.S. Secretary of Transportation Fox for getting this decision exactly right. As I have said to Secretary Fox about this competition over the past several months, I believe this is the right investment for our tax dollars. I believe Columbus is the right city. I believe that we have done all the right things to be the proper recipient for this. I was honored to help set up meetings between Secretary Fox and Mayor Andy Ginther. Secretary Fox was always a thoughtful and respectful listener, and ultimately, again, he made the right decision. It was tough competition, Mr. President. We had 77 other cities submit applications, and among the finalists were some very impressive cities, very innovative cities: Austin, Kansas City, Denver, Pittsburgh, Portland, San Francisco. But it's easy to see why the right choice was to invest in Columbus. It's the fastest growing city in the Midwest in terms of jobs, in terms of population. It's one of the top 7 centers in the country for foreign trade now. That places, by the way, a lot of pressure on our transportation system. With this growth and with the increase in trade, there is a need for us to be sure that our infrastructure keeps up with that success. This Smart City grant will help us ensure that that happens. I want to thank and commend the more than 100 organizations from Central Ohio who were part of this, who expressed interest in working with Columbus on improving this infrastructure. Organizations like the Battelle Research Institute, the Ohio State University, and their research on transportation, Clean Fuels Ohio, the IBM Analytics Data Center. The Ohio State University had other departments involved in this as well in terms of engineering and so on, dozens of others. I also want to thank the leadership of the Columbus Partnership. Alex Fisher and the partnership did a terrific job bringing the business community together on this. I mentioned that they also have put up $90 million of investment, the private sector, into this. So it's clearly one where the federal dollars are being leveraged and more than matched. I convened a meeting in Columbus several weeks ago at the Ohio State University Center for Automotive Research with many of these organizations that are part of this grant application. And we talked about the need not just to work together on this grant, but to ensure that Columbus and Central Ohio was on the map in terms of being a center for transportation excellence. We had some of the companies there, like Honda and some of the suppliers, but we also had a lot of the research folks there and a lot of people who are just interested in making sure that the community becomes more prosperous by helping to move people. It's almost like physical mobility through transportation is part of economic mobility in Columbus. We see it that way, and I think it's absolutely true. I was pleased to lead a letter from the entire Ohio delegation, along with Sherrod Brown and all of my colleagues in the House, Democrat and Republican alike, in support of this effort. It was bipartisan. It was from the entire state. We were unanimous that Columbus is a sound investment, again, that the federal government ought to make. Again, I want to particularly thank Mayor Andy Ginther for taking the leadership role in getting this done. It was a team effort and a good example of how the public sector and the private sector can work together to help move our country forward, in this case, to give Central Ohio the chance to show how to move the country forward, literally in terms of our transportation movement. But the credit ultimately goes to, again, the city of Columbus. They will put that $140 million to good use, improving our infrastructure, spurring economic development and jobs. It's a proposal to form a partnership with the Central Ohio Transit Authority, the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, the Ohio Department of Transportation, Ohio State Transportation Research Center I talked about earlier, and other partners in a 5-part strategy, a very specific strategy: access to jobs, logistics, connecting visitors and tourists, connecting citizens, and sustainability. Let me just briefly talk about some of these parts of the strategy As I mentioned, we're creating a lot of jobs in Columbus. With these new jobs, we've got to be sure workers can commute easily and safely. So we're going to study ways in which to move people, not just from suburb to suburb, but also to ensure that people who are living in neighborhoods that have high rates of poverty are improving access to jobs through this transportation improvement. We have a neighborhood in Columbus called Linden. It's one of the neighborhoods that will be particularly impacted positively by this. The Linden neighborhood has its challenges. I've visited many neighborhoods in Columbus that have challenges despite the economic growth we've talked about. Franklinton would be one, the South Side would be another. And there we talk about our efforts to spur economic growth, how to fight drug abuse, how to help people who deserve a second chance get one, how to bring jobs to those communities. But one thing I do hear about is the difficulty with transportation, how literally to find a job and then get to that job. People don't have cars. People have difficulty finding the bus routes that work for these jobs. Some of the jobs, unfortunately, are not close to these neighborhoods. So this is an opportunity through this new innovative transportation plan to connect people to the jobs that are there. By making it easier for residents to travel to and from jobs and from school, we can improve the future of these communities and these families. Credit's another issue that this proposal will help with. A lot of people have lack of access to credit who live in these neighborhoods. And you think about it, whether it's getting on the Metro bus or using some other transportation like the car to go or other transportation methods, credit is really important. So this project will include looking for innovative ways to bring people off the sidelines and enable them to get around easier by providing credit for transportation. Columbus also plans to use the grant funds to improve traveler information, broadband internet access, and deploy self-driving cars to connect the East Transit Center to local employers. In Columbus, we've got one of the only cargo-dedicated airports in the world. A lot of freight moves through Central Ohio. We've got the most truck stops of any state in the union. 60% of U.S. manufacturing facilities and 50% of U.S. consumers can be reached within a day's drive of Columbus. So it's a big transportation hub. I've met with a number of companies like Avnet, who anticipate more and more trucks on the road to and from the Rickenbacker Inland Port. This is again, our air freight center for Columbus, because of this continuing growth. So the City of Columbus plans to build a smartphone app for trucks with real-time traffic conditions, routing data for delivery of freight to better ensure safety and efficiency on our roads. This is good for everyone. Certainly good for our transportation companies and for the trucks, but also in terms of safety and efficiency, good for commuters, good for all drivers. Another reason for the city's success is in the way we have so many visitors are now coming to Columbus. And because visitors spend about $5.7 billion every year in Columbus, total economic impact of $8.7 billion, support jobs for 71,000 Ohioans, we need to be sure we continue to find ways to have the Smart Transportation Project work with this increasing number of visitors. We plan to work with organizations like Experience Columbus to build a smartphone app to provide real-time information relating to events in the city for visitors, for parking, traffic, transit options. By helping visitors get around easier, we can help improve their experience of the city, of course, but also make Columbus even more attractive to more visitors, stimulate increased economic activity and jobs. So these are some of the things that are going to happen as part of the Smart Cities grant. We also intend to focus on sustainability, and that will be to increase the use of cleaner ways of transporting people and goods. We will be expanding electric vehicle charging infrastructure, converting more of the city's bus system to compressed natural gas or electric vehicles to reduce carbon emissions, even as we're increasing transportation capabilities. So this investment will have a positive impact on jobs, but also on the environment. It's a win-win. So, Mr. President, again, I congratulate Secretary Fox on making a good investment decision, one that will help Columbus make history and create opportunities for Ohioans. And congratulations again, most importantly, for all of Central Ohio, those who put together this incredible application, and I look forward to working with them closely in ensuring that the money is well spent, that this project does indeed become a model for the rest of Ohio and the rest of our country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.